All right, hey guys. I just wanted to bang out another video. First of all, well, I've got a lot more free time than usual, of course, at this time of year, and I don't know, not really a guy that likes some free time, so I like to take things in and express some thoughts and all that. I hope everybody is enjoying, whatever's happening in the world. I hope you're enjoying the holidays. I hope you're doing some of the things that are really meaningful, spending time with family and friends, getting a chance to reflect, getting your head kind of out of the turmoil of whatever your day-to-day life is, even if there's no turmoil. It's just nice to kind of have some downtime, right? I used to be one of these guys that I used to hate it when there was holidays and stuff like that. I used to think, oh, this is so disruptive, man. Takes me out of my flow, out of my business kind of workflow. But then I had a switch a couple of years ago, and I thought, you know what? Actually, no, man, I'm going to start enjoying this. I'm going to just say, fuck it to everything. Everything can pause. Actually, I think I can probably thank COVID for that. COVID kind of forced me on a pause once and, you know, started doing different things. And, anyways, so that's what we're doing now. So, what I wanted to do is I've seen a lot of stuff, as I'm sure everybody is aware. Let's knock out a shot first to just make sure everything goes smoothly. Cheers, everybody. All right. So I've seen a lot of stuff on media, alternate media, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. And one thing and I won't rehash all that because everybody knows what I'm talking about with the H-1Bs and immigration and just the changing nature of culture, society, the world, your world at large, America. And one thing that's come to my mind is an old Roman saying, and it goes, enjoy the hour. It's later than you think. Of course, what that means is appreciate the time that you have right now because you're closer to the end than you think. And that's very true for people in their life. Almost everybody. My old gray haired daddy, for example, he's 82 years old. And no matter what age he is, he always thinks he's got 10, 15 years left. And maybe he does. But as much as I hate to think about it and I hate to say it, the end could come a lot sooner. And for most people, it does. For most people, when they reach the end of the road, they always think, they got 10 years left or whatever. And it is later than they think. And, it's kind of the same thing with the world. It's later than we think. A lot of people, I still see just in the comments and the way people react, call it in our sphere, people tend to see America as our thing, and we have to get this under control. We have to stop immigration. Why are we bringing them in? Why they're taking advantage of us? And everybody's looking at it as though you are still running the show and you're just kind of making some mistakes and being taken advantage of. But I have to tell you, that moment has passed, right? The time that you're thinking of right now was probably maybe the 1990s, maybe the early 2000s. Um, and you know, just going on race, for example, um, when I go to the border, when I cross through customs, you know, less than clearly less than half the people would be white. And so that's at that's at the lowest level, and that permeates most of these organizations. So when you say, who's making these decisions, it's probably somebody that has something very different in mind than what you want. It's probably somebody that wants more of what they've had. And it is a cultural shift and it is a demographic shift. You can say it's a takeover, and really it is, right? It's always a takeover. Whatever soft words you want to put on it, it's always a takeover. Nobody goes to a place and doesn't want to increase their own numbers, increase their own influence, increase their own importance. There is no demographic group anywhere in the world that doesn't go into a region or a place or whatever and not want to expand their influence, right? That's wired into us. That's biology, right? That's 500,000 years old. That's unique to every, or that's specific to every animal, right? Every animal is wired to take territory. Once you have territory, once you have small territory, you're wired to expand it. And the only reason you stop expanding it is if it becomes too costly to expand any further. And the only reason you withdraw is because you're under pressure to withdraw. So people coming into the country are not under any pressure to remigrate. Um, and there's no pressure to stop their expansion. And if anything, they have moved up into the point where now they are calling the shots. They have taken institutional power now, and they are directing the course of events. And a lot of us have been marginalized to a degree much more than we realize. Okay. So, this is the first thing I want to get through to people. You have to understand where we are. And another thing kind of dovetails in with this is you can't just expect um, because something was possible or great or competent or capable at one point that that's going to happen again, because a lot of times it doesn't happen again. You take athletes, certain athletes could always do things when they were in their prime, but they get to a point where they just can no longer do that, even though in their mind they think it's easy because they've done it before. They've done it 1,000 times before. They think that it's easy, but it's not. So you can't take things for granted. Like, let's take white people or Europeans again, for example, and look at the achievements of the last 500 years, and they're stupendous, right? They are really miraculous. But we shouldn't just take that as a given, because prior to that, prior to the Spanish Reconquista, um, you know, prior to the prior to that, Europeans, Northern Europeans were really, really crowded in into a very precarious situation. From the 1300s, you had Mongols pushing all the way from Asia right up to Poland, to the Polish border, essentially. You had the Ottoman Empire at some point coming right up to the gates of Vienna, and you had the Moors pushing right up to the borders of France, right? And you had white slavery going as far north as Iceland and taking people from there. So just because something is possible and something happened, a lot of things, first of um, all these things, the best thing that they did is they triggered a lot of unity, a lot of working together, and that helps, obviously. Then there was some creativity, and then there was a few things that fell the right way, and the rest is history. But that was a very, very precarious situation. And the odds are we're headed for another precarious situation just like that, where we are essentially squeezed from, running essentially, I guess, 80% of the globe at, just over 100 years ago, to probably very small pockets. So that's another thing. You can't just think that things are going to happen. You have to make them happen. Whatever it is, whether it's your personal life, whether it's business, whether it's a sport team, anything, you can't take for granted that something is going to happen. You have to make it happen. You have to have a goal, and then you have to envision how you're going to achieve that goal. And here's the white pill. I have seen a lot of good things this year that some people understand this and some people are working towards: consolidation, amalgamation, creating centers and pockets of power, right? Even if you only control, call it 10 acres, that's 10 acres that you have dominion over. 10 acres can become 11 acres, can become 20 acres, can become 100 acres, can become a town, can become a state, right? You just have to start creating the template for control, right? And I am seeing this, and these are the most important things. So if you're a person, everybody out there now, if you're white, number one, you have to start thinking collectively, even if it doesn't benefit you personally. I run a business, and it would be easy for me just to employ the cheapest foreign person that I could. But I always try to go the other way, right? Especially with somebody that's like-minded, because I know that that has a trickle down effect. And I know I'm going to get a quality person. Sure, there's a lot of things you got to put up with nowadays. Just in the whole employee-employer relationship is a lot tougher to negotiate now than it ever has been in the past, and that's probably by design. Nevertheless, it's the right thing to do. So find like-minded people, work with them. Above all, you have to have an in-group preference. And that's the main thing. The second thing is, even if you don't have alliances, you have to find interests. Like, I can't remember who it was, but somebody from the British Empire said, "We don't have alliances, we have interests." And that's a perfect way to phrase it, because you don't need to be locked into an alliance. An alliance can become a burden in a lot of times, but you can lock into shared interests. And that's how a lot of things really get done. Um, a lot of times it works in a negative factor. Maybe you want someone like a prime minister or president or whoever, you want them voted out. You want them voted out for a completely different reason than that person does, but you have a shared interest. And so therefore it makes a lot of sense to work together, right? And then there's no expectation that you have to be aligned on every single thing. You can get things done. We have to work with people that have shared interests a lot more often, especially if we share a common priority. Um, yeah. So, and if you're a person that can't really get involved in that kind of stuff and is compromised in family ways or whatever, here's what I would suggest. I would say you spend the next 10, 20 years working on um, asset acquisition, tangible assets, um, because that's going to protect you a lot. You know, when you look at things like property, for example, AI is not taking property. Once you have property, keep it. Keep property. If you need money, borrow. Buy, borrow, die. Form a living trust so that the property stays with you. So you just accumulate. We're in an intergenerational struggle here. And so we got to think intergenerationally. We got to think, hey, how is this going to be a lot better for all of us in 25 years, right? How's it going to be better in 10 years? How's it going to be better in 25 years? How is it going to be better in 50 years? If we think on a long-term timeline like that, you really, really start to accelerate. I mean, just in investing, if you know the rule of 72, it's how many times does a number go into 72? That's how long it takes to double. So if you're able to, say, increase your land by 7% every year, well, within 10 years, your land doubles. Within 20 years, it quadruples. And within 30 years, right, the next generation has 8 times as much land as you, just by a 10% a year improvement, right? So these are the takeaways I think everybody really should think about this year. Okay. Number one, it's later than you think. Don't, you see this a lot of times in wars, right? A lot of times when you see something like Syria, for example, that just happened, when something collapses very quickly, it's because the defending force keeps reacting to the previous position. They go to attack a position where they think their enemy is. Meanwhile, their enemy has already moved on. So they're always on the back foot, and they're never quite ahead of, they're never meeting the challenge where it is. They're always under an assumption of the previous scenario. And that's where we are. Honestly, I see a lot of people that seem to think this thing is ours. We need to control it. It's not, man. What you are, what you represent, if you're, call it a European American, you represent the the group that has the most easy assets to take. You have the most land, the most accrued wealth that's undefended. And the rest of the world wants it. The people that are here want it. And you don't have you don't have a defense strategy that's suited to the modern world. You got to get one. You got to get one quickly. Okay. We all do. So, number one, it's later than you think. Number two, you have to start working towards asset accumulation, like minded people, and in group preference. Those three things are extremely important. Even if it's a person that you don't like, even if it's a person you don't agree with 100%, look, man, even if it's a person you hate, if they share the same common goal, just have a detente or whatever. For example, I'm a pagan. I would work with Christians, right? As long as they're not actively working to undermine anything that we're doing, right? That's how you have to look at things. All right. So I know that's kind of a grim subject, but hey, you know what? I will leave you with a positive golden pill, not a white pill, but a golden pill. So every great people have been forged through extremely trying, difficult situations. That's actually exactly what's going to happen to us, right? We're in an extremely trying, difficult situation. There's no guarantee that we make it out. If we do make it out, what follows on the other side is going to be spectacular. You're going to see the Reconquista. You're going to see the Age of Discovery. You're going to see all that stuff all over again. But we have to get through probably the next 150 years, maybe 200 years, right? You just have to have faith, and you just have to, if you work on building your own family, building generational family wealth, assets, hard power that people can't ignore. You can't negotiate from a position of weakness. You have to have hard power. You have to have collectives. These are all the things you need. Okay. Anyways, I will cut it there. I'm rambling a little bit. Let me knock off one more shot and toast all of you guys. Believe me, I only drink vodka. Well, I only drink alcohol at all, really, this time of year. So I don't want you guys to think I'm a lush, right? Cheers. I will see you on the other side. See you on the other side.